Our fiscal approach must strike a careful balance between addressing our immediate needs and meeting our longer-term structural needs in a responsible manner. In the immediate term, running a fiscal deficit to support targeted relief is warranted, considering the unprecedented impact of COVID-19. In the longer term, COVID-19 has not changed the fundamental drivers of our fiscal trends. With our aging population and maturing society, our recurrent needs in areas like healthcare and other social spending will continue to rise. We must meet these structural needs in a disciplined and sustainable way. Hence, beyond this crisis, we must return to running balanced budgets. It was fiscal prudence and discipline that allowed us to accumulate our national reserves, which has enabled us to respond decisively to this crisis. In FY 2021, we are committing $11 billion for the COVID-19 resilience package to tackle the immediate and extraordinary challenges that COVID-19 continues to pose. This package is needed to safeguard public health and support our people and businesses. Given the extraordinary and temporary nature of these measures, the government proposes to fund the COVID-19 resilience package through a draw on our past reserves. Putting together the proposed draw of up to $11 billion in FY 2021 and the $42.7 billion of past reserves that we now expect to draw in FY 2020, the total expected draw on past reserves over FY 2020 and FY 2021 will be up to $53.7 billion. This is a net increase of $1.7 billion from what we expected to draw from past reserves to respond to the crisis. The President has given her in-principle support for the proposed draw of up to $11 billion on past reserves in FY 2021 to continue the provision of public health care and relief measures in the coming financial year. Once again, I thank the President for her support. In the coming years, our fiscal situation is expected to be tighter. Prior to COVID-19, we were already expecting a structural increase in our recurrent spending needs, especially in areas such as healthcare. We have tripled our government spending on healthcare within a decade, from $3.7 billion in FY 2010 to $11.3 billion in FY 2019. Fellow Singaporeans have often expressed the desire to better care for our seniors with quality yet affordable health and aged care services. This is possible only if we can muster the resources to do so. We have maintained the principle that recurrent expenditure should be funded by recurrent revenue. This ensures that we spend in a responsible way, one that is fair for current and future generations. To finance our recurrent spending needs, I first announced in Budget 2018 that we will need to raise the GST rate sometime from 2021 to 2025. As announced in the Unity Budget in February 2020, in view of economic conditions then, the GST rate increase would not take effect in 2021. This remains our plan. However, we will not be able to put off the increase for too long. We have to make the move sometime during 2022 to 2025, and sooner rather than later, subject to the economic outlook. Let me reiterate my commitment to all, that the government will ensure that our overall taxes and transfer system remains fair and progressive. GST on publicly subsidized education and healthcare will continue to be fully absorbed. And to help cushion the impact when the GST rate is raised, we have set aside $6 billion for an assurance package. This will effectively delay the effect of the GST rate increase for the majority of Singaporean households by at least 5 years. For lower-income Singaporeans, the offset will be even higher, with those living in 1 to 3 room HDB flats receiving about 10 years' worth of additional GST expenses incurred. I shared in previous budgets that the government is exploring the use of borrowing to finance major long-term infrastructure that benefit current and future generations. This approach will allow us to spread out the lumpy cost of such infrastructure investments more equitably across generations. Having studied this extensively, the government intends to issue new bonds under a proposed Significant Infrastructure Government Loans Act, or SINGA for short, SINGA. The government will table a bill in Parliament later this year. These new bonds will allow a fair and efficient way of distributing the fiscal responsibility. Fair, because these payments are borne by the generations who will directly benefit from the improved infrastructure. Efficient, because they allow us to benefit from the current low interest rates environment. While we expect economic recovery in Singapore and globally, there is a wide cone of uncertainty. Even if the economic and fiscal situation turns out to be worse than expected, we must still press on to invest in new areas so as to ride on the structural changes, transform and emerge stronger as an economy and as a people. Should the public health and economic situation deteriorate and the need arise, the government will seek the President's consideration for the use of past reserves to support these economic investments to ensure Singapore emerges stronger from this crisis.